Hello guys, my name is Jana and I'm here in the city of Burgas. In fact, I'm in the Sea Garden, what we people coming from Burgas or people living in Burgas call Morskата градина в Burgas. And what you can see right behind me is actually the monument of one of the best Bulgarian poets, probably the most talented Bulgarian female poet. Her name is Petya Dubarova. Now, if you are interested in Bulgarian culture, in Bulgarian literature and in Bulgarian poetry, and especially if you're an expat living in Bulgaria, you have to know this name, or at least you have to have heard this name. Her name is Petya Dubarova, and unfortunately she died at only 17 decades ago. I'm very, very happy to have met Petya because we went to the same school. We were a few years apart, a couple of years apart actually. We were not in the same year and we were not friends, but I knew, well, everybody knew her at that time. She was on the rise. She was already famous. She had started writing poetry at, I think, 10 or 11. And her poetry, if I just take the liberty of giving a kind of a definition, actually has a lot of purity and maturity, incredible. I took the liberty of writing a very short poem in English to just introduce Petya to English-speaking people, although her poetry has been translated into English, of course. And also I wrote later a poem in Bulgarian to commemorate her. And I wrote them before I found out that actually she died on the 4th of December, okay, back decades ago, as I said. You can double check everything. Well, Petya is still very famous. Her poetry is still unsurpassed. And what I want to read to you is, as I said, my own poem to commemorate her, but it starts with her own words, with 3 of her own words, a line from one of her poems. Right. Now what you can hear right now is the sound of Burgas, herring gulls and seagulls. This is the house where Petya Dubarova grew up in the city of Burgas, Bulgaria. This is the house where she wrote her beautiful poetry, and this is the house where she committed suicide at the age of 17. Petya Dubarova is one of the best Bulgarian poets and probably the most talented, one of the most talented Bulgarian female poets. Unfortunately, she died very young. She committed suicide at 17, at only 17. Now, her house has been turned into a museum. I wish I could show you the inside because it would be probably interesting for many people. Petya grew up in communist times. The atmosphere in the house would take me back to my teenage years because we grew up at approximately the same time, and I grew up in the same city in Burgas. But unfortunately, it's closed. The museum is closed. It's not open because it's Saturday. But at least I can show you the house from outside. This is the house where Petya Dubarova grew up in. My name is Jana and I'm here in the city of Burgas, Bulgaria, and what you can see behind me is a Bulgarian school. And the special about this school is that actually Petya Dubarova, the famous Bulgarian poetess, went to this school. I happened to go to the same school. Actually, we were not in the same class, we were a few years apart. Well, I didn't know Petya, we were not friends, but I certainly met her and I do remember her very, very clearly. Now, if you're interested in Bulgarian culture, you should hear the name of Petya Dubarova. Probably the best Bulgarian poetess, female poet, who unfortunately died at only 17. She committed suicide. And the reason I'm filming this video is because I want to tell you a little about what I know about that. Petya grew up in communist times, and so did I. The communist regime took good care that everybody should know about the communist ideology, of course, and younger generations were introduced to actually working class ideology, of course, which was everywhere. Burgas was a working class city, so to speak, and but every school in Bulgaria practically had what they would call practice. So you were introduced to menial jobs, to menial labor, to physical labor, so to speak. You had to learn to work with your hands. Of course, they all know, well, this school, I went to the English language school, so did Petya, and this is where the English language school at that time was. This school was among the 5 or 6 best schools in the country, the most elite schools, and here, well, went the future doctors and lawyers and actors and academics and so on and so forth, and professors. Nevertheless, we had to do this, of course, and there was nothing bad about that. The problem was that Petya, well, a machine broke, okay, where the class, Petya's class, went to have their practica, actually, to do this and to work. Well, this happened, I think, once a week, I can't remember. A machine broke, and when the time came for somebody to be punished, Petya stood alone. She took all the blame, so the authority punished her. She couldn't take it and committed suicide at only 17. She took sleeping pills, which is a great, great loss for Bulgarian poetry, because well, can you imagine what she would have written? Her poetry is vibrant and beautiful and innocent and mature at the same time, if I could take the liberty of saying that. And the reason I'm filming this video, in fact, I'm filming this video in memory of Petya, because she committed suicide on a 4th of December, decades ago. There is a museum in the city of Burgas. I'd like to Very hungry kitty. Sorry, kitty. This is in memory of Petya Dubarova, a Bulgarian poetess who died at only 17, but her poetry remained unsurpassed. So, in memory of Petya, from broken urban veins was dripping blood instead of rain. She went away in vain. She should have stayed and written all the words that came from her like pearls, as innocent and youthful, the way they only do from mouths too young to lie, to die, or know the truth. In memory of Petya Dubarova.